What? Ooh, cutting my own head off there. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How are we doing? It's now September. Where is this year gone? It's gone all the way. It has been way too fast. It's now September, and we are now on to the quarterfinals of the Women's World Championships. Just like that, down from 32 to 8 teams, and now we have bangers only. Bangers only for the rest of here on out for the Women's World Championships. My name is Everett Lorm. It is September 2nd, and today we're going to talk about some volleyball. Obviously, we're going to break down the entirety of the round of 16, and I'll get you set up for the quarterfinals. Is Dalderop any good? I'm not convinced. Dalderop was an absolute stud for the first half of the women's Lega Volley Femminile season. I mean, I know she wasn't fantastic. I think she's been dealing with something because we've seen her on and off, but still, Netherlands are still moving on. Yeah, seriously, Nika just out here catching strays. Aussie, we're going to talk about how good France is. I did miss quite a few of the matches. However, I have spent the past couple of days going back and watching them all. So we are up to date. I watched pretty much everything, whether it was, except for Italy, Germany. There's no reason to go back and watch that. None whatsoever. I thought that could have been an interesting one. I maybe set it up for like a bit of a potential upset, and that's not what we got at all. That is not what we got about it all, but Aussie, you will definitely hear about how good France is. They just execute, man. Right? Their offense isn't that fast, but they've got 3 really good outsides who just love to crush the ball. They play some really strong defense, and China was also pretty bad. We cannot leave that part out of it at all. Okay? So let's just, jump into things. Oh, we don't need to see the back end of my YouTube. I apologize. All those stats. We are going to go break down these matches one by one, starting in chronological order. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about the Dutch taking down the 2-time defending champs, and I will admit that this game was better than I expected to be. Serbia showed up and played much, much harder than I expected them to be. I thought we would see them to be crestfallen. I thought that we would see them be just broken, and they weren't at all. Serbia came out to play, and if you're looking at these team stats right here, I mean, they out-hit, they out-blocked, they out-served the Netherlands, but the big thing down in this in the errors section, 32 errors for Serbia against the Dutch, and it was 2 very different styles of play. You've got the Serbians who come out really aggressive, especially with Uzelac and Ivanovic on the left side. They're giving them so much volume. It was 72 attempts for Uzelac in this round of 16 match, whereas the Dutch just prefer to stay a little bit steadier, right? They stay a little bit, basically, they just like to feel it out. They play a very kind of wait and see game. 14, what were the errors here? 18 combined errors here for the Dutch throughout the match, and they just kind of let the game come to them. They have a really steady offense. They love to spread it out. All 5 of their attackers were in double digits for this one, led by Dalderop and by Dambrink. And Dambrink is really, there's this like other gear of lefties coming up right now. You've got there's one in Germany, and there's one in Slovenia and all, where there's like shorter lefties, and Dambrink is kind of the best of them. And you can really tell that who has the green light for when playing for the Dutch and who doesn't. And if you're looking at it, only Dalderop and Dambrink made any errors, but they were the ones scoring, right? Dalderop is 17 for 50 in attacking. And where was Dambrink? Dambrink was 16 for 39 for 17 points. Dalderop had 19. I agree. She didn't have her best game. She only had a 14% efficiency in this one, but it was still good enough. It was still good enough for the Dutch. Their ace to error ratio compared to Serbia, the Dutch 3 aces only 4 errors. But when you're looking at the Serbian team, like they like taking a lot of risks from the baseline. So they get 7 errors or 7 aces, but they only also made 17 errors. So at the end of the day, as I mentioned, Uzielats was outstanding. You can tell that she can handle volume. 28 for 71. Yikes, for a total of 31 points. She also added 3 aces. Ivanovic was also pretty good. Her efficiency a little bit better than Uzielac. She was at 24 for 50 with a 38% efficiency with 24 points overall. But other than that, I mean, Alexic was really good. Serbia had 13 team blocks. She had 6 of them. And Kretijic really just not... can get it done on the blocking side of things, not getting as many touches though as some of her teammates, and 2 for 7 with a 0% efficiency is just not good enough, right? And I think that we're looking at Hannah Kretijic to be one of the best up and coming stars in the middle, and she definitely is when it comes to her blocking. As I said, the only person I've ever seen be from ground to completely pressed in volleyball before is Augustine Lozère. Like that is my comparison for her. But the rest of her game, it needs a little bit of work. And yeah, we're seeing some in the chat a little bit Bongarts over Van Allen any day, and I can't say much about Britt Bongarts. I know she's fantastic, but I've never really seen her play in person. I've seen Sarah Van Allen play in person, and she put me on skates. Okay, I'm a big fan of the way that Sarah Van Allen plays the game in general. Okay. But yeah, as I said, not much to look at on the Serbia side of things. As we thought, Bukilic really struggled to score, only 14 points. She was 9 for 24 with a 12% efficiency. She did add 2 blocks and three aces, but it still obviously wasn't enough at the end of the day, as you could tell that, I mean, as I said, the Dutch just really steady play, and they kind of just waited out Serbia in the first 2 sets. Serbia came back storming in sets 3 and 4, and Uzielats was really controlling the pace of play. And then once again, the Dutch are just a very, very patient team. They let the game come to them, and they can kind of deal with what they're given, right? So overall, congratulations to the Dutch. Sad times for Serbia. This match actually proves that I think I was maybe a little bit hard on them in terms of my preview and how good I thought they were. If you add Tijana Boskovic to this roster, that could have been nasty. I think we would have seen a really good game against Japan leading up if she was healthy, but unfortunately, that's not what we're going to get. Okay. Now moving on to match number 2, and this was one that I streamed here on YouTube. So if you joined for that, thank you very much. Always love doing that. And I thought it was a really entertaining match, even though it was a 3-dong for Japan. I thought Thailand fought really, really hard in front of their crowd. I mean, they made things interesting in that 3rd set by leading the end, and Japan had to come back and get things going. I thought Thailand did a pretty good job of never letting Japan get too far ahead. Every time they would get a bit of a lead, and I think their biggest lead was 5 points in the 5th set, then Thailand would do something to claw themselves back, whether there was a defensive play or a big rally. But Thailand just really struggled getting consistent scoring from anyone for more than one set. And it was interesting to see. I mean, the first set, it was Sasi Papran. I don't know if I said that properly, but you guys let me know. And she scored the majority of her 7 points in that first set. Second set was Pimpchaya, and then 3rd set was Chachuan. So it was tough for the Thailand to really get their offense going when it was really only one person at a time. And then I thought the biggest difference was just Japan's consistency, right? And that's what they are. Like, they are a team that executes much, much higher, and that's where they need to be. And I thought the MVP for me was Shimamami. Shimamura was outstanding. She was 9 for 19 in attack with a block and an ace. And I don't know what her dig stats are. I Actually, I think we can go see in here because she was outstanding defensively. So without a doubt, Shimamami was my 2 digs. No, she had more digs than that. 100%. That's garbage stat keeping right there, because no doubt about it, Shimamura had a better defensive stats there than what's that saying, because no doubt about it, she had more than 2. But overall, I thought Japan was really just more consistent. They basically controlled the pace of the play except for the majority of that third set, and they were much stronger down the middle with Shimamura and Airi. Shimamura had 12 points, Airi had 8, 20 combined points in the middle. Ishikawa led things with 14 points. Wada had 11. And Yoshino has been struggling a little bit. It's her first year on the international circuit. 7 for 27, but with a minus 4% efficiency. Not great over there for Yoshino Sato. But unfortunately, Japan doesn't really have much in the closet after that. So, we're going to talk about the previews. We're going to preview the quarterfinals a little bit in a bit, but I think this is going to be one of the more interesting matchups between the Dutch and Japan in the quarterfinals. But other than that, I don't think there's really much to say about this match. Really, it was a fun one. It was an entertaining one. Once again, thanks for everyone who joined on the stream. Now, moving forward to a match that I kind of hyped up as being a potential big one, and it was anything but. This one turned out to be an absolute stinker, as Italy just really they just dominate everything. They're the best team in the world, and they showed that here before. I think they actually may have watched the show, tuned in, and they're like, well, if ever thinks Germany's going to give us a run for our money, we're going to show them otherwise. Because maybe there was some rumblings like Germany had done really well against Italy. They beat them in an exhibition game. Doesn't really happen much against Italy these days. And then also push them to 5 earlier this year in Rio. But this one, just look at these stats everywhere. 48-30, 9-5, 48-30 in attacking, 9-5 in blocking, 2-0 in serving, 25-22, 25-18, 25-11 for Italy. And the reality is that Italy is just so good everywhere around the ball. They're especially in the blocking. They play both sides of the ball so well. Their side out game is ridiculously good. Egonu was unreal in this one. She had 21 points. She had more points than the top 2 scorers for Germany combined. But on top of that, where Italy, I think, really dominates is at the blocking game. 9 blocks, but also 21 block touches in this match for Italy. And I've talked about it before, is that they really just dominate the middle of the court. They play strong at the net. They don't really go after it from the baseline. Only 2 aces in this one and only 4 errors. So you can tell that ace to error ratio doesn't really matter. And I think right now in women's volleyball specifically, there's 2 trains of thoughts. Either you're going for it, whereas in men's volleyball, I think going for it is the only option. But in women's volleyball, either you're an aggressive team and you're a good serving team and you go for it, or you're going to go the opposite way and you're not going to go for it and you're going to minimize your errors. And Italy is especially a team that it is in their benefit because of the athleticism and just the overall skill and IQ that they have on the court. The longer rallies get, the bigger it is in their benefit. And I think that's exactly what we saw in this one. The further this match went on, it was more and more for their benefit. As I said, just dominating down the middle. Sarah Farr, no kill blocks, but to get 6 touches. Ogonu, 4 kill blocks, 3 touches. Same thing with Danesi, 3 kill blocks, 4 touches. It was an absolute clinic up and down the court for Italy. Ogonu got 21, Nervini got 11, and then Farr got 10. And if you're looking at Germany, it was a struggle for Germany just to score against that big Italian block. Alsmeyer had 10. She was 10 for 30 with a 13% efficiency. And other than that, you had Orthman and Wiska, both with 7 points combined. So it was just an absolute domination for Italy. And yeah, I don't think there's much else to say about it. They're the best team in the world. I do believe that is 33 matches in a row and counting. All right. Now, moving forward to I think it was the most entertaining match of the quarterfinals. I thought it was really, really good to watch Poland and Belgium go toe to toe. Belgium, you could just tell that they had. It's not that. Okay, I'm not going to say they didn't have a dog in this fight, because that's completely wrong. But they had no pressure going up against Belgium. They just going up against Poland. They just went out there and balled out hard, and you can tell that was kind of their ethos in this first set. They came out swinging hard. The way they pushed against that first set, kind of snuck in there, stole it from Poland after Poland leading quite a bit earlier on. And yeah, they were just really, really strong all around. I mean, if you want to talk about a gutsy performance, then we have to talk about Belgium's setter, because she was absolutely outstanding and put this team on her back, especially in the fourth set. Elise Van Saas, and Van Saas 3 aces in a row midway through that fourth set to help push the Dutch past. She had 3 aces in that set, also a block for 10 points overall. But I said in the preview that Herbots needed to be the best player on the court, and that it was probably going to be a head-to-head with Magdalena Stysiak, and I think I was half right on that. Actually, I'm going to give myself maybe a quarter right on that. Herbots was the best player on the floor with 23 points overall. She was 21 for 60, but she did get blocked 7 times with 4 errors, but still, Herbots, like, I loved her energy. She got targeted 34 times in serve receive as well too. She was 47% positive, but only 9% perfect. But she was just gutsy the entire time. But I was really impressed by the entirety of Belgium. As I said, Van Saas earlier on, and I think she just spread out the offense really well. And then Pauline Martin too, as with one of her best performances of this summer. Definitely her best performance of the World Championship. She was 18 for 44 with 19 total points. And really, I think it was just a really good note for Belgium to go out on. They really made their country proud, and they showed us that they can ball when they have their entire team and they're able to go out there and fight with it. It was a really, really fun game. Both teams going at it. Like Poland really controlled. I wouldn't say they controlled the second. It was a really back and forth. They did control quite a bit of the third, and even in the fourth set, it looked like Poland was poised to really take a run. And then even in the fourth, it looked like Poland was really poised to take a run. But Van Saas went on that run with 3 aces in a row. She got an ace, they called out, she got 2 more, and that just really put them. I think that put them up by 4 or 5 at that point, and really Belgium just started running away with it. But one thing I was really impressed with, and we saw this earlier in the tournament as well, when Poland played against the Dutch in group play. Was it the Dutch? No, they played against Germany when they played against Germany in group play, where Stysiak starts the game really slow. And this one, she started the match really slow for Poland. It was a lot of tips for Stysiak, 15 points total, but really just not great in sets 1 and 2. Set 1, I think she was like 6 for 11. So I guess all right in set 1, but set 2, she really cooled down. She was 1 for 8 with a minus 25% efficiency, and she got pulled out for Smarzek. Smarzek made the immediate change. This one was all of Vukašik match anyways. Vukašik was absolutely outstanding, but Stysiak was really bad at the beginning. Didn't look like she had any rhythm, was just tipping, and finally in the second set, Belgium was all over that. They had to go to Smarzek, and she brought up a different energy. But in that serving run for Van Saas in the fourth, they brought in Stysiak, and she did the same thing when they played against Germany, where she started poorly. They brought her to the bench, and then they bring her in on that double sub, and she finished the game going 6 for 11 and attacking with no errors. And that's what I want to see from my star players, right? That's the type of gutsiness that I want to see from my star players, that, hey, it may not be my night, but I'm going to go and take a breather. And when my team needs me and we need to win a fifth set to move on, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to give you my best game. So I was actually really impressed overall by Magdalena Stysiak, and and the way that she played this one. It was a really entertaining match all around. And yeah, I think it was great. Like I said, Vukovic was the star for Poland. She led with 20 points. She was 17 for 38. But while her numbers aren't fantastic, only a 20% efficiency, I do think that she just makes efficient play, like big plays at big times, right? She's really athletic, and she can finish off those plays for Poland that maybe go a little bit longer. And that's why she leads in break points with 9. Of course, everyone's favorite, Lethal Barbie, Agnieszka Korneluk. What can I say? 5 kill blocks and an ace. That standing float wiggler is just too much sometimes. But also, when you're looking at it, she had 24 attempts down the middle, right? That was more than Chiniatska, who played for three and a little bit of sets overall. But Korneluk, you can just toss it up to her, and she's going to get kills. 9 for 24, so not the most efficient, especially from a middle, but still 15 points. Overall, Poland wins in 5. They are moving on. I'm really glad. Ultimately, like, it would have been alarm bells if Poland had lost in the round 16 to Belgium, and now it's setting up a bit of a battle, a duel of the fates against Italy in the quarterfinals. We'll talk about that one in a little bit. Okay, now moving on to the match that basically everyone wants to talk about, because France coming out here and surprising China. Now, I think that China is one of the most interesting teams in the world because of what they've got in their youth and the different players that they can bring out there. However, this was definitely a match that they let their youth show, that inexperience seeped through. And then, of course, you've got the injury to Li Yingying, and she's just not quite ready yet. And you've got a 17-year-old setter, and even, I'm gonna really have to learn how to say their names properly, but Wu Minjae and Zhuang Yangshun, they're just going to need to be able to figure it out.Ose two who, were 1-3 in scoring this year in the VNL, a combined 16 points. Zhuang on the left side, I mean, she's been outstanding all year. 3 for 20 with a -10 efficiency. Just really struggling. FUMJ, I mean, she was better. She was 11 for 34 with a 12% efficiency, but still 13 points over the course of 4 sets is not what they were hoping for the leading score of the VNL. They had to be led by Wang Yuan. She was 13 for 15 in the middle, right? Perfect 87% efficiency with 2 blocks as well. But there's 2 sides to the story. One, that offense for China just not clicking, because their serve receive was outstanding. 56% positive, 31% perfect. They were outstanding in serve receive, but just not connecting with their offense. While on the other side, France, you got to give them so much credit. So much credit. I thought, obviously their best match of the year, and there's a few things about this. I think France A has 3 really talented outsides. Elena Cazot really showing that she can do it on all sides of the ball. She had 34 targets in serve receive, which led her team of their 86 total. 59% positive, 41% perfect. Right? They were in system 41% of the time because of Elena Cazot. And that's really good, because I don't think that their setter is all that good. Nina Stojilikovic. I think she just sets a bit of a high ball. And France, they don't do anything too complicated. They don't do anything too special. They don't even run the middle all that much, with 12 combined points down the middle and only 19 combined attempts. But you've got 3 really, really good outsides. As I said earlier, Elena Cazot, we've known her for a while as being their rock. She's their captain, and she does it all. Iman Ndiaye was outstanding in the VNL and one of the top scorers. She was big in this one too, 19 for 41, 39% efficiency with a block and an ace. But for me, it was all about Amélie Rotard. 16 kills on 31 attempts. She had a 42% efficiency with 2 blocks. And she served 15 times with no aces and no errors, while still passing somewhat decent as well. I think they should have gone after her because she was 31% positive and only 28% perfect. But I thought Amélie Rotard was really what changed everything? It really changed the balance. And then once you add into the fact that France is a really, really good defensive team, a really, really good defensive team. And we know Juliette Gélin was, I mean, for the time that she played in the Ligue of Volley Féminine this year, when she was playing, she was the best defender. Statistically, she was the best defender. Playing for Monza, or she was for Scandicci? I can't remember. Someone write it in the chat. We'll talk about it. Gélin is outstanding, but I think you just have a group that plays really, really well together, and they don't really try to complicate it. I do think that to get to the next level, they may have to complicate things a little bit, but this was a coming out match for Retard. We already know Cazot and Yaye are really good, but they really, really, as much as China was playing poorly, it was also France's strong play that really pushed this one through. And when you look at these stats, France just dominated offensively. Blocking was pretty much even. Serving was pretty much even, but digging, defense down here is where you're going to see the big difference. 92 digs for this French team and only 78 for China. They just out-hustled them. They just out-hustled them, point in, point out. They worked really, really hard, and they were really solid on offense too. 35% efficiency as a team, hitting at a 45%. Collectively, that's really good, right? They only had 5 unforced errors over the course of the four sets. What did France? And I thought that as impressive as they were throughout the entirety of the match, I was most impressed by the way that they came back in the fourth, because the Chinese machine started chugging in the third. It really did. That's when they really started to get their offense going a little bit. That's when it started clicking. That's when we started seeing China be way better in serve receive, and way more efficient, 46% efficiency, blocking a little bit as well too. Gong got going. WMJ, that was her best set with 5 points too, and you could see the machine kind of start going. But just towards the end of that set, that's when France started to push back. And the big thing that I think is that France kind of took their foot off the pedal in terms of serving in the match. And in the third set, they made the most errors of the entirety of the match. They made 5 errors. They took off a little bit of pressure and allowed China to open things up. And I don't think France puts on a lot of pressure on their serving, but they're putting enough to get China out of system, get them out of whack. And then China was just really struggling at finding some scoring, and they trying Li Yingying, and they were trying different options. But ultimately, it was just not in the cards for China on this date, which honestly, this could be a bit of their, villain story of how they get going. I think it was a really good summer overall for China. But I mean, if you're a French fan, you need to be really excited about the way this team is playing, because now, they've made it all the way to the quarterfinals of the World Championships. I don't think anyone really expected it to be here, but they've done it really in a really solid way. Remember, they pushed Brazil to 5 in the group stage, and then here they upset China in the round of 16, and then they get another matchup against Brazil, because that's how poorly this event is done. And yeah, you're exactly right in the chat. A setter would make a huge difference, an absolute difference, because as I said before, I don't think that their setter is all that strong. She doesn't have great hands. She doesn't really run much of an offense, and just kind of sets a high ball, which is really good for this Chinese team. But they don't really connect well in the middle, even though I think especially Amanda Sivs is really underrated. I think that she's a big body in the middle and can kind of play there. So I really like this French team, and I think that once they can open up their system a little bit more, they could potentially be really, really good. But yeah, France, good on you, good, solid. I'm excited to see the next round. Now, this match, honestly, we don't really have to talk about it much, because this one was all Brazil. And even though it was a 3-1 match, it was all Brazil. And if you want to ask me why, Brazil made 12 of their 20 errors in the first set. They had 6 attacking errors, 6 serving errors in the first set. And yeah, I think like the Dominican couldn't produce anything. And then after that, it was just off to the races for Gabi and co. She was outstanding. 21 points, 17 for 32 with 3 blocks and an ace. Brazil, as a team, passed 33% positive and 54% perfect. This to me is like they absolutely dominated down the middle, and like that's why you're seeing this blocking stat 14-8. It was an absolute domination. 25-18 for Dominican in the first set, but once again with 12 points gifted to them. And those, like, I'm sure there's more, because I'm sure there's like a net touches or something there. And then it was 25-12, 25-20, 25-12. Yeah, there was just, I honestly left early. I went to Mech and went and got some camping gear, because I'm leaving for camping tomorrow. So yeah, it was just an absolute domination, and I don't really think that we need to talk about it. The big thing about the Dominican Republic is the fact that they don't have their libero, or their setters, really, right? Without, of course, they don't have Nimeria Marte, who's not only their starting setter, but their captain. And then Ariana Rodriguez, I thought, really grew with his team really well, but she's playing back at Miami in the ACC. Miami's in the ACC, right? Yeah, University of Miami, the U, and just wasn't available. So the next one up, not good enough for the Dominican, and too bad, so sad. You're out in the round of 16. Okay. Okay. Well, from one Pan Am matchup to now an Orsika matchup, I don't really want to talk about this one too much. I think that you just have a situation with a much better American team against a Canadian team that's still learning how to play at this level. We've talked about it a lot, about how Canada's missing all of their best players in Alexa Gray and Bree King. Sorry, Brie O'Reilly. I apologize, Brie. I'm sorry. Force of habit. I'm sorry. Brie O'Reilly. And then, of course, Kira Van Rijk. So I thought Canada overall had a pretty good showing. It wasn't terrible. I didn't think we got blown out of the water. It was a little bit much in the first set, but they stuck with the team pretty well. I'm going to do a bit of a breakdown of the Canadian women's summer overall after this championship. So we'll talk about that then. But I did think that it was a solid showing for Canada, and it was a decent showing for the USA as well. I mean, they didn't really have much against them in terms of pushback. There was a few times where Canada pushed back nicely, but otherwise it was just all USA the entire time. They out-hit us. They out-blocked us. Surprisingly enough, our serving, we did score more. However, we made 10 errors on serving to their 3. So we only had 1 more ace, whereas we made 7 more errors. And that's kind of really what we're going to see, especially in tacking. They had 6 errors, got blocked 6 times. We had 7 errors, got blocked 11 times. Only a 19% efficiency overall for Canada, but a 30% efficiency for the USA. So a decent showing for the US. 13 for Franklin, 13 for Skinner, 12 for Maddie Skinner on the right side. Avery had 13, Maddie had 12. Would have liked to see Guzin sent in earlier. Yeah, I can't disagree with that either. I mean, we've seen her kind of come in off the bench quite a bit, but we saw her a little bit in the first and saw her in the third again. So I really like Abby Guzin. Like, once again, a teenager out there balling. I saw that she just signed with an agency, so I'm hoping that means she's going to be going pro instead of going back to the University of Alberta, because as I think I have a lot of respect for that program, but she could be something special, and she needs to be playing at that level right away. So maybe she'll get picked up by Vakif Bank as like a 5th outside and can just go and train in Turkey for a year or something. But overall, good job by my Canadian women. Congratulations to the American women, moving on as they should be. And yeah, we'll talk about the preview a little bit, because I have some thoughts about that. And then finally, wrapping it up, Turkey against Slovenia. honestly, this match was really entertaining. Well, the first and the third wheel. The second was an absolute snooze fest going 25-13, but 30-28, 25-13, 29-27 for Turkey overall in this one. They are the only team to not have lost a set so far. So congratulations, Turkey, because they have been cooking. They have been playing pretty well. On the Slovenia side, it was Fatoumata Silla, of course, with another 15 points, but she did struggle going 12 for 44 with only a 7% efficiency. But then also Ava Zetkovic was 14 for 26 with a 31% efficiency, and that's kind of what helped them push through. And you know what? I like Zatovic is also one of those lefties that I talked about earlier, and a little bit undersized and a little bit of a a nice lefty with a good arm, but overall, Turkey just too much. And if you're looking at these team stats here, they did everything: out attack them, out block them, out serve them, and forced Slovenia to make way more errors. And Melissa Vargas was actually really good. This was one of the best matches I've seen her play in a while. 19 for 36, a 47% efficiency with a block. No aces, still 20 points overall. And then Eda Erdem with her best match of the summer. And, it looked like it paid dividends to have her take the VNL off. 12 for 16 in attacking with a 62% efficiency, 2 blocks, and 3 aces, getting her team jacked up over there. As I said, Turkey, the only team who have not lost a set so far in this tournament. I actually think that they're looking really good. I think that they're taking things step by step, and they're going step by step, and we haven't really seen them hit their stride yet. There's still an absolute disaster on the left side. Karakurt started the match. Did she get injured actually? Maybe I came into this match late, but I saw that she got subbed out, and she was 0 for 4 to start the match, and she got targeted 3 times with a 1 positive pass. That's it. So, now that I'm thinking about it and looking at these stats, like Turkey's big problem is like Ilkin was not great. She was 4 for 13 with 15% efficiency. Yaprak, similar, 1 for 6 with a 0% efficiency. Baladine was the best of the bunch, I guess you could say, 6 for 20 with a 5% efficiency. People are saying Ilkin was actually pretty solid. She scored 15. I guess she was actually better. She had a 15% efficiency. That was the best one. But when you have your outside scoring a combined, 13 points here? Yeah, that's just not really good for Turkey. It's my biggest issue right now with this Turkish team is why can't you find a left side? Because especially with Karakurt, she wasn't that bad of a passer before. So yeah, it is very interesting. Yeah, Baladim is there for receiving serve and not much else. I agree. Her serve receive was fantastic. 77% positive, 46% perfect, which is outstanding. Ilkin Aydin also not that bad. 53% positive, 19% perfect, and it's just going to be between those 4, who are you going to go with? Who are you going to go with? Yeah, Baladine is a good passer, so it does activate the middles, and when you have Gunesh and Erdem in there, and it also allows you to open up things for Vargas. I think you need to have Baladine. Ideally, I think you'd want to have Baladine out there for her passing and Karakurt, but who knows? Santorelli knows better than I do. Overall, I think that we need to give a big shout out to the Slovenian team being the only non-VNL team to make it all the way to the round of 16. Good job. Congratulations, and I'm very excited to see what Silla can do for Corneliano. I don't think we'll probably see her a lot, but I am excited to see what she can do for Corneliano. Oh, sorry. I needed a sip of water there. When it's just me talking like this, I get quite parched. Quite parched. See some good conversations happening right now in the chat. A lot of Balladine hate in the chat, but yeah, that is the overview of all 8 of the round of 16 matchups. What did you guys think? I definitely think Poland was the most entertaining. It's just Belgium had nothing to lose and they kept on coming. It was great to see. Brazil Dominican was definitely my most boring match to watch. So yeah, that's what I think of everything. Okay, now moving forward to the quarterfinals, we do have 4, I think, really banger quarterfinals coming. Ooh, we can see that the head to head. So I think the Dutch Japan, the first quarterfinal and the last quarterfinal, I think are going to be the most interesting. Netherlands Japan, I think, is going to be a bit of a banger. For sure. Where are my notes on this? First and foremost, it's a massive opportunity for both of these teams to break into the top 4. Japan hasn't done that since 2010, whereas the Dutch have done that a little bit more recently in 2018. Now, they did play each other this year, and Japan beat down on the Dutch 3-0 in Ottawa. But that was, classic Japan. Really, really good at the beginning of the Vienna. And I'm not going to say that they dropped off, but, fatigue has been a bit of a factor. That's when Yoshino was absolutely unreal. And just to answer your question, I actually will be watching 2 of these matches for sure, because I leave for camping tomorrow morning. So I'm like, the first match is at 6 a.m. and we're planning to leave around 6 a.m. And then the second match is at 9:30 and I'm still going to be in the car then. So I've worked it out with my partner that because we have to drive to go pick up my canoe first. We're going to put that on the top of the car. So on the way, drive to the canoe, she's gonna drive there. I'll watch Netherlands against Japan. After that, she's going to drive, because we have to drive to Newmarket, which is north of Toronto, to go meet our friends. And I'm going to drive there. She has a call at 9 have a meeting. And so once her call's done, we're going to pull over. We're going to switch because I'll be driving. And then I'm going to watch. And if it's early enough, I may even just throw in a little cheeky live stream from the back of my car as we drive up to Killarney Provincial Park. Mostly because I think it would be funny. And then also I'm going to be watching with my buddy Dave. And Dave is from Ottawa like I am. He's a few years older than me, but he did play club volleyball. So he has a little bit of volleyball knowledge. He's a good guy. So I think it would be funny if we could. I don't want to promise anything because there's also like internet stuff, but I think it would be really funny if I did a live stream from the back of my minivan on Highway 400. Okay. So sorry, that was a big, long story to say. I will actually be watching half of the quarterfinals, but after that, I probably won't be watching anything, unfortunately, because I will be in the bush. But back to previewing these 2 matches, and the thing is as you guys are, I'm driving about 5 hours. So I know in Europe that's pretty much the entirety of your country. You're probably into like multiple countries over, but that's like in Ontario. I'm not even like halfway through Ontario. It would take me 24 hours to drive, like 24 hours of driving to drive from like Toronto to, which is even like the furthest point, to the border with Manitoba. But yeah, sorry. Back to volleyball. No one wants to hear me talk about camping because I could do that all fucking day. I honestly might start a camping podcast because that's something that I could talk about all day for sure. But back to volleyball. This matchup between Netherlands and Japan is really, really interesting. First and foremost, as I said, it's a massive opportunity for both these teams to break into a top 4, get a lot of points, however that's worth. But also, I think you have 2 teams who, I'm not going to say that Japan hasn't improved, but this is a team that's been running kind of their same players the entire time. And it's been a pretty steady throughout the entirety of the year. But the big thing is Japan is that you've really seen some production drop off from some of their athletes, mostly Yoshino Sato, and we know Wada isn't 100% either as well too. So both of those athletes are fighting with some injuries and whatnot. And I think that where this game is going to be interesting is because you've got two teams with kind of similar but alternate styles, because both of them have setters that can really run their outsides really well. Really run their outsides really well. They don't have overpowering opposites in Wada and Dambrink, but they're both shifty and can both hit some different shots. Dambrink's a little bit different to read as a lefty. And then on the left side, I think Dalderop and Merit Jesper, maybe not the best pairing, but I think a little bit underrated. But where it's going to be the most interesting is that both of these setters are really good with Anami Seki and Sarah Van Allen. I think Van Allen delivers the ball, like her back sets. Oh, they honestly give me a half chub every single time. They're so beautiful to watch. And Seki runs a really good offense as well. And the big thing is that, as I mentioned earlier, the Dutch really like letting the game come to them, right? They don't try to make too many errors. They kind of wait it out. They've got a skilled team overall, and they try to find their shots where they can get it. Whereas Japan, especially now underneath Farad Akbash, their offense is really about trying to force the occasion, right? And really trying to find those gaps. And so that's why we're seeing a little bit more unforced errors on the Japanese side, and they're starting to be a little bit more aggressive. So I think on one side you have a Dutch team that's really been growing and building and playing some young players and working on some new things. And Dalderop didn't play most of the VNL, and now she's back into the roster. And on the other side, we have a Japanese team that we pretty much know front to back, right? After their starting lineup, there's really not much there. So I think this one is going to be, I think a lot of Japanese fans are probably out there being like, the Dutch, this is going to be a lock. But my head tells me to pick Japan just because of how they are. But my gut is telling me that the Dutch are going to make this a really good match, and are going to be really tough to beat. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to see the Netherlands in the semifinals. I would think, honestly, I'm leaning right now 60-40 in favor of Japan. And I know that's really not really good, but still, that's what I think it's going to be. Japan, as I mentioned, did beat the Dutch this year in the VNL. However, since COVID, the Dutch actually lead the series 3-2. So in their 5 matches since COVID, the Netherlands have won 3 of the matches, and Japan have only won 2. So I think this one is going to be one of the most interesting matchups that we're going to see in the quarterfinals. Okay, the next match that we are going to see, can we work this please, is going to be Italy-Poland. And now, depends how you look at this. It could be an absolute donging like we saw in the semifinals of the VNL. That is a big possibility. However, that is a big possibility in more than a likelihood. Okay. However, this Polish team, I think, is a little bit more battle tested, right? They've had a couple of tough 5 setters against Germany, and then now against Belgium, and they've had those scares. So I don't think, obviously they're not taking Italy lightly. They're going to come in with, all of, you have to play your best game against Italy. It's like playing against the Yankees, or I guess not Manchester United anymore. Back in the day, that used to be a thing, but it's you're playing the best team in the world, the team on a 33-game unbeaten streak, which is an absolute record, a team that is going to be the first team since 2000 to hold both the Olympics and the World Championships. Like, you're going to bring your A game as much as you can. But I think in the past, Poland comes in the VNL maybe overflated by doing really well in the group stage and doing really well in the preliminary round, and then just kind of falls apart in the playoffs. Whereas now, like, they've had that scare into them, right? Like, both times, like the Germany game, whatever, but their season was very much on the line against Belgium. All the way, it was tied 9-9, right? In up 10-10. Like, that was a close match, and their match was on the line. So they know very well what that feels like. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Stysiak has not had outstanding full matches in either of their big matches, either against Germany in the preliminary round or against Belgium in the round of 16. So if she wants to be considered, an elite players show up in big matches. When you're playing the best team in the world, that's a big fucking match. So I'm expecting Magdalena Stysiak to have an absolute game, right? I'm expecting Lavarini to be absolutely prepared. And I think there's one thing you can say about this Polish team is that even when things aren't going well, they play hard. They play hard and they go hard. And it doesn't matter who they bring in on the left side, whether it's like Vukašik is obviously going to lead the way. Once again, like she knows how Italy works too, having played there. But whether it's Czernianska or they have to go to Damaska, I think this Polish team is going to be ready to bring it to them. Can they fight against Italy though? It's, to me, I think the battle, like, you're gonna, like, can you slow down Agonu, and then can you win that middle battle? Obviously Korneluk is really, really good, but playing against Farr and Danesi, that is a tough task to do, no matter who you are. So I think this is going to be a really good one. I'm stoked that I'm going to be able to get to watch it. I may not be able to watch like from the beginning because I'll be driving for this first little bit, but I may potentially throw down a stream with my buddy Dave. I will let you know. Okay, I'll post it in the Discord. And Ranji, I kind of agree, but I kind of don't agree. Because like if you look at how they played against Belgium, Stysiak was really bad. They took her out, brought Schmarzek in, and they led, like they won the second and third without her easily, and then the fourth, like when they brought her back in, but like even in the fourth, that like Poland was controlling the pace of play until Van Saas went on that serving run. So I do think that Poland is a little bit more than just Stysiak, but they need Stysiak to be at her best if they want any chance of beating this monolithic Italian team. Okay. And that's another thing too, is the second you figure out Agonu, if you get under Agonu's skin, you have a Katarina Antropova who's just chomping at the bit to get back into things and to get out there. Okay. So once again, maybe a stream. We will see. Moving forward, Brazil against France. Now, here's the thing. It's going to be two ways. It's either going to be, because this is a rematch of an epic 5-setter. Brazil had to pull off the reverse sweep against France, right? France has been knocking on the door. If you haven't been paying attention, I'm not saying that their upset was a surprise, but like there were signs. This did not come completely out of left field, okay? So I can see this game going one of two ways. First and foremost, Brazil blows them out of the water, right? Gabi is Gabi. They dominate down the middle, and France, emptied the tank against China, right? Or this game is another hard-fought match. I think, especially, like, I don't think Brazil or really anyone expected France to come out as hard as they did in the group stage. It kind of knocked them off kilter a little bit, and they had to regroup and come back into it. That's not happening this time around in the quarterfinals. However, I do think that this French team has the horses to be able to run with this Brazilian team. But can they do that when Brazil is at full force? And now Brazil obviously isn't going to be at full force. They still don't have Ana Cristina. Bergman is solid. She's a better passer, but she doesn't score like Ana Cristina. And Rosa Maria has been all right. Just all right for Brazil. Even played a little bit of left side against Puerto Rico earlier in this tournament. But I think that this game might actually come down to a bit of a middle battle, because I think, as I said before, the French middles are actually pretty good, and they might be able to play physically with the Brazilian middles, and especially Julia Kudis, who I think could be one of the best ones coming up. Especially because both of these teams are pretty high powered on the outside, especially on the left side with Cazot and Gabi going at each other. This one could get pretty interesting, and I think that Brazil has way more of an advantage in the middle, and for France, they're just going to need to be able to have to step up, right? Sivs and Iluja are going to have to be big in the middle, no doubt about it. And if they aren't, then that could be the end for France. But because France plays so simple, I don't think they really are scared of anyone. You know, if like you're playing against a team and you just have a simple offense and you just run, I wouldn't call them high balls, but essentially just normal go balls to the outside, then you know, it doesn't really matter who you're playing against, and you're going to be able to fight against them. So I think that if Brazil can bring the same type of defensive intensity that they brought if France can bring the same type of defensive intensity that they did against China, then they definitely have a shot because they have the horses. Oh, and Amélie Rotard needs to play just as well, if not better, right? If the sum of Cazot and Rotard can be bigger and better than the sum of Gabi and Bergman, and that's a tall task, an absolute tall task, I think they have a shot. But then also, and Yae is going to need to be like she needs to be out there scoring points. She needs to be out there and to be a machine, because that mismatch of Rosa Maria versus Yae is where you could see the balance of points maybe potentially change up a little bit. Okay, so this one will be at 6 a.m. Eastern time on Thursday morning. That's like what, noon in Europe. So that must be pretty nice. Maybe I'll watch it, but probably no, I'm not be watching it from the campsite. Although the first day, I am not so far into the bush, so we're still pretty close to civilization. So I might still have service. Who knows? We'll see. Okay, and then to wrap things up, this one, in terms of intrigue, I think this was the best one of like, in terms of storyline, in terms of intrigue, I think this is the best of the quarterfinals. Turkey against USA. Now, as I mentioned before, Turkey the only team to have not dropped a set. However, as their fans, there's no bigger hater to Turkish volleyball than Turkish fans. I will say that. There's this weird thing too where like in the Discord right now where like both the Turkish fans and the American fans are just like gassing the other team up and telling them why why the other team should win. It's been so weird. But when you look at these two teams on paper, like Turkey should be able to run away with this one, right? Turkey, this is their team. This is pretty much their roster. Like, they're out here to play. Whereas this American team, it's been well talked about how we are through a rebuilding phase, right? We are going through a rebuilding. There's a lot of players who aren't here, who could be here. There's a lot of new players who are new to the international game. A lot of fresh faces from the NCAA. It is a different American team than the team that we have been used to for the quite little while. Now, it's tough because on paper, Turkey has been playing this tournament outstandingly. But then you look at how the play of their left sides in this one, and it really, really, really has me questioning. It really does, because you have the high-powered Turkish offense on one side, and it is known to be one of the best. And then the Americans, which is all about their system and is all about spreading things out. Like, just on firepower alone, I don't think the Americans have enough to keep up with Turkey. But are Turkey going to be playing against the USA, or are Turkey going to be playing against Turkey? And that is always the question with them. Are they going to be playing against their opponents on the other side of the net, or are they going to be battling themselves? And just as Ahu Spencer, as you just said in the chat, Santarelli knows he can't afford to lose this game, right? And the entire Turkish team knows they can't afford to lose this game, which is why I think they actually could lose this game, right? This team is always under a massive amounts of pressure. On top of the fact that we're looking at the fact that they have never made it past the quarterfinals of the World Championships. They've never made it in the top 4 of the World Championships. So this would mean so much to Santarelli and his team. And also, what are Turkish fans going to say if this Turkish team loses to this American team? Whoo-wee! What could be done? And now, like, I see all these people being like, yeah, I just can't see USA handling Vargas or Karakurt. And the thing is that if the Americans can just play a steady style, if they can just go out there and play their style and just be steady and okay, Turkey might go out there and shoot themselves in the foot, right? If they are winning, especially the left side battle, and like Avery Skinner and Sarah Franklin, if they're going to be out there and be able to better than, Baladin or Aydin Ilkin or Karakurt or whoever it is, it could get ugly. Now, if Turkey plays their game and plays, and Vargas is Vargas and she scores 25 plus points, and they're keeping things efficient, and Erdem is being run down the middle, and they're blocking as well too, like the only way that USA doesn't like they're not going to outplay Turkey if Turkey is playing their best, right? If Turkey is playing 80% or better, then they should be able to win this match. But, big but, can they show up? And I really don't know. I was honestly way more confident about how well Turkey was going to do until this podcast started, and I just saw you guys shitting on them in the chat. And Turkish fans watch way more Turkish volleyball than I do. So, yeah. I think if Drews were on this team, I'd 100% bet on USA. Yeah, no, duh. We could say that, like, honestly, if Team Canada had their entire team and we played like this American team, I would have bet for us in the round of 16. I think it would have been a very interesting matchup, but we didn't have it. Okay, so that is the 4 matchups. I think when we're looking at the quarterfinals, I think we're gonna see. Okay, I think on the top of the bracket in the semifinals, we're gonna see Turkey, and we're going to see Japan. Yeah, they're on the top of the bracket. And then, no, actually, I take that back. We're going to see Turkey, and I actually think we're going to see the Dutch. I think the Netherlands are going to beat Japan in the round of 16, and then down below, I think it's going to be Brazil versus Italy. Yeah. And then I think Italy is going to beat Brazil, and I think it is going to be an Italy-Turkey final, and Italy will win. Okay? Yeah. That is my predictions. And yeah, I hope everyone enjoys over the next few days. Just a reminder, I will be camping, so I will not be doing any shows. If I'm going to do anything, it will be a live stream tomorrow morning for Italy versus Poland. But other than that, I won't be live, and I won't be doing anything until next. I'd like to say Monday, but probably Tuesday, just because I'll have, at least like a finals to watch and stuff like that. So I'd like to say Monday night I'll go live and recap it all, but probably wait until like Tuesday afternoon or anything. Okay. Yeah, I think Japan Netherlands is going to be is way closer than everyone thinks it's going to be. May or absolutely or my I apologize if I don't know how to pronounce that. I think it's going to be way closer than a lot of people think. Okay, and I think it's going to be a really good match. I'm excited to watch it tomorrow morning. Okay. Italy will beat France. Turkey will beat Japan. Finals between Italy and Turkey. I don't disagree with that. Yeah, that's what I just said more or less as well. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. I love you all. Have a great week. I may see you tomorrow morning for a live stream. If not, I will see you next week. Enjoy the finals, and peace.